Hello and welcome to Spring Commander Forged Alliance. We're on Badlands. I believe this is a ranked game, but two extremely good players, Zock and Blackheart. Zock going Aeon, Blackheart going UEF. Gotta say UEF a bit of an advantage on this one. I think the speed of the Harvey isn't gonna make up for the absolute brutality of the Percy, but it's Zock, so you never know. Of course, there's always Mercy Snipes and the really good Auroras that we now have from the new patch. Of course, it's kind of like a clash of the player Zock, who's been probably the best, or at least in the top five for sure, over the last 5-6 years, and Blackheart, who's became in the top five over the last year. So let's see if he can get a really big victory under his belt. If he beats Zock here, this is not an official game or anything like that. It will really solidify his position as one of the top players. Of course, the style of Blackheart is usually more defensive, suits UEF, but here a very aggressive Mech Marine, so let's see if he can do something with that unit. And looks like a flare from Zock. So both players not neglecting early raiding, or at least planning on doing some raiding. And of course the Snoop, excellent scout. In my opinion, the best scout, unless it's a water map, then Aeon of course. 2 damage per shot plus a long range, that really makes that Mech Marine a lot stronger. Only 1 damage per shot from the flare scout. Guess it's not a flare, it's a spirit. We might see a first confrontation here coming up minute 2. And it looks like Blackheart going pretty aggressively to the Hydra. There is a difference. And Mech Marine, and this I think where the Snoop might get the kill. You can see the micro. Oh, and the Snoop gets killed. But I think the Mech Marine is going to get that last kill. With 10 health left. This will be a nuisance for Zock. There are some exposed engineers here. This will force Zock to make more flares. Zock, of course, with another group. Flare up on top. Probably should do a split screen here, but I don't want to get all crazy. So I won't. Looks like, yeah, this Mech Marine has the potential to do all kinds of damage against Zock. Unless he gets too close. Let's see, Reclamation right now is dead. Yep. Zock not missing the opportunity. A big lost opportunity there on the other side. Yeah, this is where the ACU from Blackheart might come in and take out that engineer, but looks like that will not happen. Good move from Zock, spotting the ACU with the spirit, sacrificing the scout, which will allow the flare to escape and creates all kinds of problems. We also see a scout from Blackheart in the air. Do we see a bomber? We don't see a bomber yet. You have bombers. Not something you can rely on, but against Aeon, against Aurora, I think he cannot afford not to build a few. Here comes a striker from Blackheart, leading with Snoop, and then a flare here, and a flare is not going to be able to defend against the striker. And that's one thing I've noticed in Blackheart's games. He always goes Mech Marine, and then striker. It's something like 3 engineers, Mech Marine, scout, engineer, striker, scout. I think that's when you don't want to think. It's a really good combination. And this one, of course, he came with the Mech Marine a little quicker. And of course, now the striker, that flare that Zock made was absolutely useless. A striker with 3 kills. He's going to keep on moving. Good scout. Spotting another engineer. So early on, in terms of rating, I think Blackheart slightly better. Although it could have been a lot better. Just 1 engineer lost for Blackheart to the flare. That's now still has some potential. Seeing both players with that second air, but no bombers so far. Although an air fight that it appears Blackheart is in a position to win. Now this striker with 4 kills looking for more. You can see how much more powerful a striker is, especially with a scout and total air control. So he knows exactly what's happening by an Aurora moving in. Striker is a veteran, so it's got an extra 30 health and a bit of this Aurora really needs to micro. Yeah, this is such an awesome. Yeah, this is what the new Auroras can do. They can dodge. 6 kills on the striker, 360 health, plus 2 regeneration. The put that in perspective, one shot from Aurora is 40 damage. And it's going for more, 8 kills, but now the Auroras from distance take out that veteran. But very good striker nonetheless. That was the first striker Blackheart made in the game. The Flare, though, trying to win back some points here, taking out an engineer. So both players being a nuisance, and looking at the map from the top, we got to say Blackheart a little faster in terms of grabbing map control. He's got a significant advantage in terms of mass income, also significant advantage in terms of power income. It's these Hydros, and looks like 2 engineers on the power spam, which will allow him to take air control and puts all kinds of pressure on Zock. Zock just finally getting here to the outside mask extractor. So if Blackheart gets into a position where he's got the better eco, he can, with UEF, he can play defense all game. He can try to force it into the Tech 3 stage where he knows that the UEF will dominate. Things that he's got to look out for, of course, with Aeon's very strong tech to air and now very strong tech to land as well. So you cannot be complacent against Aeon. But so far he's not. Even though I always call him a very defensive player, his raids are excellent. And here is he's just moving in directly into, and I think I just heard the first bomber, 1 kill. And one thing I want to see, it looks like there's quite a few factories for Blackheart. He's sitting on a total of 12, 3 of them not working. And he's going to get a very big land force. Of course, this map is a very spammy map, but a significant advantage over Zock, who's only sitting on 7. So we're going to see massive groups of strikers here shortly. Also, in terms of upgrading, I haven't seen too many tech to mask strikers from anyone. And now this bomber, still on 1 kill, working as a scout. And finally, it looks like Zock has been able to capture all his mask strikers, and now we almost have the same income from these 2 players. There is some fluctuation because of reclaim, however. Pretty aggressive group of Auroras that really needs to start kiting. Once the strikers get up close, of course they have twice the health. There's really no contest. And the striker, a very generic unit at 24 damage per shot, 1 shot per second. Aurora a little slower, but much longer range and a little more damage. Group of strikers. This group of strikers actually be quite difficult to stop for Zock, unless he does quite a bit of micro. And he is pulling 2 different forces into the middle to be able to deal with it, but most of this middle territory has been denied to Zock. A couple engineers here and there trying to claim some point defenses, defensive walls, and the ACU also moving up. These 2 mask strikers, something not to neglect, and I really hope the mouse cursor is showing. If it's not, well, guess then I have to apologize. I'm actually curious to see if this will work. So hopefully it continued to record, but the mouse cursor should be showing. Some anti-air from Zock. Feels like he's being outspammed in terms of air. He's got a big power spam. And he's actually surpassed Blackheart now. And tech to land, and here's the Obsidians. And this is where the Obsidians are going to absolutely dominate. One funny thing about the Obsidians is that regeneration on this shield, it says +2 units a second. I believe it's +20. Actually, something to look at on the database says +20. Something I probably should know, and a complete miss. And here we're going to see the Auroras versus Strikers. Auroras are going to stay at range, and we're going to see, yep, Strikers are going to get cold feet and retreat. But these Obsidians routinely get massive amounts of kills against Deck 1. And at this stage, it's really a lot of scouting, grabbing these last 2 mask strikers and upgrading as fast as possible. You want to put pressure, but you don't want to just feed your enemy. And here I'm curious to see what this Obsidian will do, and also how quickly it regenerates the health. The cost on Obsidian 360 mass versus only 52 on a striker. So you need about 7. 7 strikers versus Obsidian, but that's not going to and I think it I think it's actually only 2. Yeah, it's only 2 per second, so that shield isn't regenerating that quickly. So it's almost like a nerf if that Obsidian gets veterancy, its health regenerates faster than the shield. And now successful point defense. Looks like this top area is going to be claimed for Zock. And then another Obsidian. So with these Obsidians, they're spread all over the place along these 3 battles. And Zock now pulling away in terms of income. It looks like he has begun upgrading. He's got quite a bit of assist on his Tech 2 HQ. Getting more engineers, switching to Tech 2 power. Got to be seeing some Tech 2 power from Blackheart as well. And Blackheart going with the Mongoose, so he's going with the unit that you got micro. Although he does have some pillars on the field as well. And the pillars are really outgunned against the Obsidian. You can see the damage is 480 damage per shot. Definitely not 600. And it's 0 if it hits terrain. The one advantage, of course, only 200 mass. You gotta pay for one of those. See that Mongoose just took one. 480 damage. More walls for Blackheart. And an engineer in the middle getting Tech 2 point defenses. So we're switching to this Tech 2 stage where you see some flak and looks like a fight for the top point defense versus point defense. Slightly earlier for Zock. Looks like these engineers are going to realize they're going to be late. They're going to retreat, get a factory. Or they won't. They're going to wait for pickup. And 2 engineers are going to be saved. A lot of micro there for 2 engineers, so they better make up for it somehow. Tech 2 versus Tech 1 point defenses. Tech 2 wins. Some Mongoose trying to challenge. Mongoose very good choice against Auroras. But I think against the Obsidian, unless you really micro them, it's going to be very difficult. Of course, with the NG mod, one thing that's really fun to do, get Tech 2 factories up on top since they're only 300 mass. And start making mobile missile launchers, cruise missiles, point defenses up on top of these mountains. I guess that's what they are. Some factory attack moves, some reclamation for Blackheart. And amazingly, these 2 players nearly identical in terms of eco. Zock might be slightly ahead, but not by much here, minute 13. Let's look at how many Tech 2 mass extractors he's got. He's sitting at 9. And looks like another drop. This is going to be Obsidian drop. It's going to be interesting to look at. So 9 Tech 2 for Zock. Very similar. 8 for Blackheart. There's of course an extra 4 mass extractors that Zock has from taking the sides. A couple Obsidians moving through. And I don't think they're going to survive. And this one should have just kept running. Significant force from Blackheart in the middle, not really doing much. Really neither player doing much except these Obsidians, which are a bit suicidal. Leaving a couple nice wrecks for Blackheart. Blackheart putting quite a few walls here, does not want any sneaky attacks. Some TMD. Something you do not want to neglect, especially if you're facing Cybern against Aeon. Aeon missiles not nearly as deadly. And looks like some movement from Blackheart. He's going to move to the middle with his force. There is some Tech 2 point defenses from Zock. Some Tech 1. And Zock now at Tech 3 is new models. Oops. For the HQs. We got Tech 2 Air, the Swift Wind, so Zock should have domination in terms of air. Amazing eco here from these 2 players, nearly identical. Guess when you play at the very top level, this game becomes very even. Well, let's see what Blackheart can do from this. Just one advantage of the Tech 2 stage you can give one unit that's very seldom used is the Janus Bomber from UEF. If you want to use that to snipe TMDs or power, it's always fun to do. But here come the Harbies, and one very big buff that has been given to the Harbies. They've always been able to reclaim, but now you can set them on patrol and they'll automatically reclaim, and they can also, I believe, reclaim walls, do things like that. I think they can also shoot and reclaim at the same time, which gives them a huge advantage. And the build time on them is quite a bit faster than the build time on the Percy. But the Percy, of course, in equal numbers absolutely annihilates. Here comes a Tech 3 point defense. Tech 3, not point defense, sorry, engineer. Tech 3 point defense in this map, extremely powerful. Although it is countered by Tech 3 artillery or snipers, something that Aeon is really good at. Aeon artillery, Tech 3 can move. So Tech 3 point defense might be a bad idea. Blackheart getting upgrades, and one thing with Aeon when you're in this teching battle, something never to neglect, is the resource allocation on the ACU. Once you're at the 4-5 Tech 2 power generators instead of getting a Tech 3 PGN, you can get the resource allocations on the ACU. Save you some space and build capacity. It's the advantage over UEF, which only has one. But quite slow here the last few minutes. We are now switching to the Tech 3 stage. Some Titans, perhaps a bit surprising. I think seeing Percys instead of Titans would be good because the Harbies don't really care if they're facing a Titan or a Tech 2 unit. They'll kill them very similarly. 300 damage per shot from the Harvey. You see, this is very much a wall of death. These Harveys are going to get a lot of kills. And these Titans are not going to do anything about it. Tech 2 Raider here. Good target. The thing about the Harveys, if you micro them, you can dodge a lot of shots. At the same time, we got a Tech 2 push. Some blazes here are going to prevent the wall from being completed, and this could be dangerous if they attack the build capacity around the Tech 3 factory. Also some Tech 3 power here. So Zock attacking on two different fronts. I think this force here may be a bit of a diversion. And let's see what these Harbies can do. Yep, they can go ahead and reclaim walls. So walls against Harbies does not work. Just outside the range of this Tech 2 point defense, and they're going to start doing damage against Blackheart's mask extractors, and now Zock beginning to take an advantage in terms of income. But a successful defense here. We're seeing Percys on the way for Blackheart, and where he really needs the Percys is over here where the Harbies are, because there's really not much that can be done unless Zock just runs in. He really needs to save this one Harby. 14 kills, 18 kills, 3 and 4. He wants to pull this one back, let the others take the shots. Another Harby following up. He's patrolling, and this is what they can do. They can reclaim. Go ahead and take some of the free mass in the battlefield, and these Harbies not being microed. One Harby runs away. These others really did not need to be shot like that. Perhaps a bit of a lost opportunity for Zock, but one of them runs away. Can still do quite a bit of damage. Some Tech 2 mask extractors in its path. This Harvey needs to get out of there because it's getting hit by a Tech 2 point defense. Another group from Zock. Zock, a couple Tech 2 point defenses in the middle. Some snipers. Let's see how well these do. These have been upgraded, but I still don't see any reason to use them unless it's just like you're trolling somebody. I'm not really sure. And now this Harvey taking out Tech 2 mask extractors. So the last few minutes has been either very quiet or some attacks from Zock, both Tech 2, Tech 3. And the result, quite a few mask extractors taken out. Zock taking a nearly 30 mass income lead, also a power lead, but there is a lot of reclaim for Blackheart. Blackheart's sitting at 21,000. Zock at 11,000, so extra 10,000 for Blackheart, and he's got quite a bit left. And in terms of air, it's been absolutely quiet in this one. Looks like a lot of air factories for Zock. Let's see what he decides to do with that. And also upgrading a couple factories to Tech 2. This is another Tech 3 factory, so this is support Tech 3 factory. Looks like he's going to use the adjacency. And this Harvey now at 20 kills. You see a lot of dead stuff. He's not going to face the Tech 2 gunships. Bit disappointed. I'd love to see some factories up on top of these hills, but looks like Zock, he's just busy micro, and I mean you can see his income has just shot through the roof. He's over 200. He's really, that was the successful attack, and then he switched to teching. I think he realizes that some point there's going to be a lot of Percys, and he's going to need an experimental. If he doesn't have an experimental, he won't be able to defend, so he's putting himself into a position where once he senses an attack, and now we see the scouting from Zock, once he sees a group of Percys moving his way, and this is already significant, 5 Percys, he will begin making experimentals or tech to point defenses. I think tech to point defenses against Percys are a much safer bet than Harbies. They're cheaper, and they're just much better. Let's see what the snipers can, if they can actually do anything. Yeah, one thing about the sniper, they get hit by anything, they die very quickly. Harbies take out tech 2 point defense, so Zock continues to be aggressive. He did just do some scouting and decided he can make a push. That scared Blackheart back a little bit. And the thing about going ahead in terms of teching, if you can continue teching, you're going to get the gap between you and your enemy is going to get larger and larger. It's just a question at what point you are going to not build enough defense and get ran over, which happens very often. So this is where scouting and teching as much as possible is the name of the game. Zock with yet another scout. Looks like a drop coming in. Perhaps some Percys on a Tech 2 transport. Let's see if that's successful. And one unit, see quite a bit of from Blackheart, the Tech 3 mobile missile launchers. They're typically a counter to Tech 3 artillery, but maybe they're being used defensively. And here, I think that may have been spotted. Yeah, this is going to be tragic. Swift wins excellent against countering. Yeah, we saw some Percys there in midair dying. And in terms of power production, still quite even. Zock, does he have any? He is not getting any resource allocation. Perhaps he's thinking about getting the shield in the ACU for safety. But we are seeing just Tech 2 power generators, no Tech 3s. There have to be Tech 3s. Like, I just don't see them. Yeah, here's the first one, I guess. There's already Tech 3s for Blackheart, but a lot of Tech 2 power generators from Zock, and now this force getting quite grisly. A number of Tech 3 support factories, not just the HQ. And only one TMD here defending the HQ. I think this could be a nice snipe. Although if Blackheart would see a lot of cruise missiles, he'd probably get a couple more TMDs to protect this factory. Yet another Harvey sneaks through 5 kills. And once again, looks like they use the same door. Something that I missed. And a very advanced Tech 3 factory. Looks like now Blackheart is going to be moving in. And looks like the same story. Blackheart getting the taste of a Harvey running around the right side of his base. But now it looks like it's going to be a first attack from Blackheart in a very long time. And he's bringing a lot of units with him. It's a lot of Percys. Yeah, 15 Percys. That's a lot of damage. You got 1600 damage per shot. You got 16 Percys. If you do that math, get what is that? 30,000 damage, something along those lines. so you're in a position to kill spider bots in 2 waves. Now the Harpies are going to try to meet. I think there's numbers on the Harpies. There's also some tech 2-point defenses. But we're going to see these Harpies really disappear. The Percy's doing a little bit of kiting. You can see the health on a Percy nearly 10,000. Harvey only about 6,000 with the shield. Some Percy's taking a shortcut. And we're going to see the Percy victorious. So Zock now with some issues. Looks like Zock does have a group of units here on the left side that might sneak through if he decides to give him the order. Looks like he's busy watching his forces getting run over elsewhere. This is so much reclaim here for whoever gets it. And I think yeah, somebody needs to get a transport. I think Blackheart needs to send a transport here to get that reclaim. These tech 2-point defenses have been excellent. Nice shield. Emergency tech 2-point defenses from Zock. These Percys have been victorious, but really a lot less than 15. And yet another group coming in. So this is going to be a non-stop Percy assault from Blackheart. Looking at the eco here, minute 26 though, we can see Zock still ahead significantly, although in power they're dead even. And this is where the tech 2-point defense is doing the job. These are some important targets. If Blackheart can take out a couple of these tech 2 power generators, might be able to shut down the power production. A big air fight. This is mostly tech 1 versus tech 2, and it looks like a tech 3 transport with a whole bunch of Percys moving in, speeding them up, getting them on the front line. And I can't believe these Harveys have been sitting there for a few minutes now. They really need to move in, and it looks like neither player really seen them. The Harveys here taking out a lot of power production. You can see now Blackheart nearly doubling the power production of Zock. This should give an opportunity to make a whole bunch of tech 3 air. It looks like he's making a whole bunch of tech 3 transports. And these tech 3 transports, a lot of health plus the recharging shield. Doing a very good job against tech 1, tech 2. I think you might need flak against those. Although now gunships trying to kill a Percy, and that's just not going to happen. And no engineers here. This has been a huge battle. Probably enough for a couple of experimentals. Speaking of experimentals, we do see a GC halfway done by Zock. And this is just bothering me right now. That's just something that shouldn't happen. So far it looks like Zock, with all these tech 2-point defenses, have been able to put a barrier here. Not a lot of Percys have got through, and the ones that did a lot of damage, but more and more tech 2-point defenses being put up. Tech 3 power. Blackheart, I think if I was Blackheart, if I realized how much power to take out, go very strong tech 3 air, although very strong Percy push is always good. Finally the Harpies move in and right away start doing damage. This is just ridiculous. At this level they were sitting there for like 3 minutes and neither player noticed because they're too busy elsewhere. And it looks like this group of Percys, yeah, there's really nothing stopping them. They can just run everything over here. There's tech 3 mass extractors, very good targets. I think if they push directly at this position, there's some very good targets like this HQ or this tech 3 power, but there is a lot of defense, and that's something that has to be respected by Blackheart. I think until Blackheart brings some artillery here, something along those lines, he should not push in. Just kill everything else. And now it looks like GC has been completed by Zock, and a lot of engineers have been moving in, and Blackheart, even though he's got much less production, he's going to get a lot of reclaim. He's not 50,000 reclaim, he's going to get a lot more. These Harveys killing more power. Zock only at 30,000, so 20,000 reclaim advantage. It looks like this GC should have been spotted, and a very courageous drop from Blackheart. Audacious. Yeah, these this is looking really bad for Zock, and that's typically what happens for Aeon if you don't get a huge advantage by the Tech 3 stage against UEF. This is what will happen. You just can't do much against the Percy. Your best bet is just to have a lot more stuff. But this GC now is going to make things very interesting. And it's like Blackheart didn't really notice that it was there, but this GC is going to do a lot of damage. There is a fatty that probably won't be constructed. But yet another drop now. There's Percy's running everywhere in Zogg's base, but a GC in Blackheart's base, that fatty was a significant mistake. See, this transport's trying to use their ground fire. Now the GC is going to go after the power. The ACU for Blackheart is elsewhere. It is sitting on not a gun, but resource allocation. And this is quite devastating now. Both players doing a lot of damage to each other. Looks like some Tech 3 into air. This is not where you want to fly if you're Blackheart. GC meanwhile actually not doing too much damage, just sort of walking around lost. They took out the power, but I think taking out the HQ would have been great, or taking out the air HQ. I think you might be looking for the ACU, but is kind of going low on health. And looks like the last of the Percys have been destroyed, but you can see the damage was done. Both players a little lower on the incomes, but Zock's still ahead. And actually in terms of power, taking out those two Tech 3 power generators by Zock did a huge amount of damage. Zock now ahead in power, and he might be able to get back in terms of the air game. But we do see some strat bombers helping out, killing this GC, and I think this GC would have done a lot better if it stayed here. Took care of the situation. You can see power problems for Blackheart. He's stalling. That's why he's got a whole bunch of engineers making Tech 1 power. Tech 1 power here, minute 31. That's a desperate situation. More Tech 3 power for Zock. And way ahead in terms of income. So this GC did kill quite a few units, but left a huge chunk of mass. See all these dead Tech 2, Tech 3 mass extractors. Power for Blackheart. And once Blackheart fixes his power, he will have a significant reclaim. And we also see strat bombers from Blackheart. If you can use them for something, oh, that was an excellent bomb. And we're seeing a Tech 3 push from actually another GC completed. Tech 3 push plus a whole bunch of flares. Flares trying to act as decoys against the Percys. Zock hoping that the Percys will shoot the flares instead of the Harbies, and it's working to some degree. And yet another push. This door here has been used over and over by Zock. He's going to be a very big nuisance. Good use of the Continentals though from Blackheart. Thing about them, they have the shield, so they always recover their health. Let's see if Zock has cut up at all in terms of the reclaim game. He's now at 57. Blackheart 91, so still way ahead. Zock rebuilding Tech 3 power. He's hitting a whole bunch of Tech 3 power, and Zock now nearly doubling Blackheart. And this GC that Zock has completed, sitting together with a whole bunch of Harpies and flares, might think about pushing in. And these Harpies need to stay away from the Tech 2 point defenses. Although it looks like, yep, strat bombers. Not much that can be done against that. So 33 minutes, it's really not clear who's got the advantage. We gotta say it's GCs versus Percys. I think Zock was I mean, at one point he looked so dead with those Percys being dropped directly into his base. I'm sure Blackheart at that point thought this is pretty much over, but then that GC from Zock came in and did all kinds of damage. I'm not really sure if Blackheart didn't notice it, but at the same time Zock sort of wasted his time inside Blackheart's base. Could have done a lot of more damage in this position. I think it wouldn't have even died would have just kept getting veterancy. But I think it went after the ACU, and that was the mistake. And now it's being reclaimed. And since then, it's been a lot of good attacks from Zock, but he hasn't really done any significant damage. And it looks like a first big attack from Zock since the last GC came in. There's a new GC, a whole bunch of flares, but this is a lot of Perseus. This GC probably will push back. 100,000 health over this many Perseus. 3 volleys of shot, and this GC is dead. And I actually think a chicken might be a better option. No splash damage on the GC. And you see the flares are not working as decoys. That's a lot of flag care as well. There goes the second GC. The Perseus win. And even though UEF does not have an experimental, direct fire experimental does not matter. This is a direct fire experimental. More strats, 3 kills on that one. Probably gonna see the third GC from Zock. And Zock now 14,000 power. Such high power production. I'm not really sure what he's gonna use all that for. Perhaps nukes, or yeah, we'll see. Still got some reclaim 70,000, but I think it's, there's still a little bit left. Blackheart 125,000, 10,000 in the bank, and beginning to catch up in terms of power. And these Harbies non-stop denying this right position. And this Percy force, I think, might attempt to move in, do some damage. We see scouting from Blackhearts looking for targets. It's going to see a lot of different Tech 3 power generators. Strat bombers also being created. I'm not really sure if Blackheart noticed that. Strat bombers, of course, game enders. And there's a lot of reclaim for Blackheart. So, still very much unclear what will happen. We are seeing Tech 3 artillery now moving in. Eventually, if this stays this way, this Tech 3 force from Blackheart is going to be very difficult to stop. Also, some Titans from Blackheart will take multiple GCs and a lot of shields to be able to deal with a large group of Perseus. Love to see all that Tech 1 P-gens reclaimed, although it is a bit of safety. The walls are down. Perhaps that means the Tech 3 force is ready to move out. The scouts from Blackheart. So Blackheart knows exactly what's happening. Zock nearly done with the third GC. Scout from Zock. A fatty started by Blackheart. I think once Blackheart has that fatty, that'll be really good, together with all this Percy force. You can see the artillery denying the reclamation. In terms of where the ACUs are, Zock does not have a shield and under only a couple Tech 2 shields. There's a lot of Tech 3 anti-air here, but relatively unsafe. We're seeing Blackheart also not very safe. Only a single Tech 2 shield to be. Really nice to have some water here. Of course, there is no water on this map. I want to sit right on the edge. This makes these ACUs quite vulnerable to attacks from above, and we see strat bombers from both players. And more reclamation. I wouldn't be surprised if Blackheart's at 200,000 now. 160,000. And power problems. So one thing about Zock, he really pushed power about 5 minutes ago. He made a whole bunch of power before he started producing a lot of air. Blackheart's been stuck at 9k, which I think is really inhibiting him. And here comes the fatty's been finished. That'll turn away the Harbies. Zock has been a pretty big nuisance with all this Tech 3 artillery. Actually hitting directly, taking out the TMD, so there is no more TMD here if Zock chose to use cruise missiles. And this artillery from Aeon, not a lot of splash on it, but it is quite accurate. When you're talking about artillery though, I think Cyber, worst accuracy but the biggest splash, that's the best combination. More Harbies sneak in, and that's really the strength of Aeon with the Harbies. They have to sneak in and direct fire fights, they will lose. And there you go, the Tech 1 P-Gens. These Harbies are going to get a bunch of kills, but not a big loss. Strap bombers continue to be built up by Zock. Yet another fatty from Blackheart. Blackheart looks like a little more power. And here come the Percy. He's actually leading with the Titans. And is that a power? Looks like some power problems for Zock. The worst time to have power problems. Yeah, that is a very big group of units from UEF. Plus a fatty in the back. And what the heck, I don't even know what's going on there. That's just madness. That GC has been completed for Zock. That will force a few of these Percys back. Looks like Blackheart will wait for his fatty to come in to put some fire. And this GC needs to get a lot of kills if Zock has a chance here in this battle. Seeing a whole bunch of scouts, Tech 3 engineers. It looks like another fatty on the way for Blackheart. Zock has been forced to retreat. This GC, it looks like the Harbies went after the fatty, turned that back, but that left the GC all alone. The GC is gonna die. And all these units under the shields are not gonna last. There is some Tech 2 point defenses. A couple of Tech 3 power generators, gonna be a big loss for Zock. Zock looks like he's gonna get in a transport and just get out of there, so he's gonna evacuate somewhere else, or maybe not. But there's really nothing stopping this force. Elsewhere, we're gonna see the Harbies gonna catch up to the fatty. Still under fire from above. And once, of course, Harpies get under the shield, the fatty is very weak. So that's a dead experimental Zock. Doing a nice counter, but he gave up a very strong position. Basically, the whole left side of his base is gone. He continues to push, but doesn't look like these units are going to make it. Although this flak doing a good job against those transports. Yet another fatty is completed. And now Zock with a very big strategic force. Whole bunch of strats from Zock. Zock continues to retreat with the ACU, and in terms of land battle, Blackheart has completely won. We see scouts leading for Zock. Zock is going to go after the ACU. That's really his last attempt. Now, this is a lot of strat bombers. And that's enough to end the game. So Blackheart taken out. Lost the air. At the very end, Zock gets the victory. I think if it wasn't for that, I mean, it was a total victory for both Blackheart and UEF. Nothing that Aeon could do. So hopefully people enjoyed this one.